I think that President Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, has done something that no president of the United States has done since George Bush did this after the attacks of 9/11. Zelensky has united the world in support of this country and in opposition to the tyranny and the autocracy of Vladimir Putin. What Americans can do other than pray for the Ukrainians is to pressure our own government for tougher sanctions, especially in the energy sector. That is the most serious misstep that Vladimir Putin could make, to invade another NATO country, especially one of the countries that used to be part of either the Soviet Union or the Warsaw Pact, the allies with the former Soviet Union. What this would do, because they are members of NATO, it would trigger what is called Article 5 of the NATO Charter, which has only been invoked one time, invoked in support of the United States following the attacks of 9/11. But Article 5 says that an attack on one NATO country is an attack on every NATO country. It is a very, very serious condition of our alliance with our European allies, Canada and Australia. When this happens, people assume that it automatically means that all 30 NATO countries send in troops and weapons to fight against the aggressor. That's not really the case. An attack on one is an attack on all provides in that same paragraph that it is up to each individual NATO member to decide what their support will look like. Article 6, the following article in the NATO Charter, clarifies this somewhat. What is an attack? An attack is on the territory, the vessels, the planes, or the troops of any NATO member. Again, a very serious step, a misstep by Vladimir Putin, because if that were to happen, the sacredness of the NATO Charter itself and that alliance which was conceived to counter Russian aggression would be on the line. If we did not respond, NATO would cease to exist as a deterrent and as a true alliance if we did not respond. The sanctions that we've done thus far are not enough, because we are still sort of checking our punch, if you will. The sanctions are larger than they've ever been. They include allies of Vladimir Putin, the oligarchs in Russia, targeting their wealth, their homes, their yachts, their airplanes, their possessions. It is refusing any Russian airplane to fly into European or US or Canadian airspace. Those things are very significant. They've never been done. However, we are not doing all that we could do, because the one exclusion to all of these sanctions is we have not targeted Russia's energy. 60% of Russia's income comes from their sale of gas and oil. And right now, they are still selling gas and oil, even to us in the United States. That needs to stop. If we are serious about getting his attention, we cut off his income. Wars are expensive, they're costly. And if we cut off his source of income very quickly, his ability to feed, house, and fuel his troops, to buy weapons for his troops, will begin to go away. If we are really, really serious about stopping Vladimir Putin, all sanctions must not only be on the table, all sanctions, including sanctioning their energy sector, must be put in place. The sanctions that are making the news and that we're discussing are the big public response to what is going on between Russia and Ukraine. What we don't know is what's going on behind the scenes. Our own intelligence agencies, our special operators in the military, I'm sure that at some level they are engaged, but that information will not be made public, especially not now. That includes things like cyber warfare. We have the ability to interfere with Russia's internet system and all of their infrastructure as well, just like they do ours. You recall a year ago, Russian operatives shut down the Colonial Pipeline in the United States, which impacted the flow of gas and oil for our own country. We have that same ability. So I think perhaps behind the scenes with our intelligence agencies and with cyber warfare itself, there is a lot more going on than will be made public. The other thing that is going on is that in a way that I don't think we've ever witnessed since the United Nations was founded, and that is the court of public opinion, the opinion of countries literally around the world, even countries that in the past have been allied with Russia or sympathetic to Russia. The United Nations General Assembly voted overwhelmingly, 142 votes, to condemn Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The world stands against Vladimir Putin in a way that is unprecedented. You know, there are varieties of opinions about sending American troops and American aircraft literally to fight for the Ukrainians in and around their own country. But I think the majority of people feel like, as regrettable as it may be, that this would be a strategic error. Russia is a nuclear power, as is the United States, and if we were to engage each other directly in a combat role, the results of that, the possible repercussions of that are literally unknown. And the one thing that we cannot afford to risk is the beginning of World War III, where two nuclear powers start opposing each other, and then that escalates so that perhaps tactical nuclear weapons are used against one another, or even the full-blown intercontinental ballistic missiles. So it would be a mistake to do that, as regrettable as that seems. Other people have suggested that we establish a no-fly zone over Ukraine, and that means no Russian aircraft could attack and fly over the region. However, again, you would be pitting U.S. pilots against Russian pilots in the air, something that could quickly escalate and lead to the beginning of a war that no one wants. On the other hand, there are ways to get around that. We could provide aircraft, like we're providing weapons and ammunition to Ukraine. We could provide aircraft to Ukrainian pilots, they do have an air force, and allow them to enforce a no-fly zone. But we simply cannot afford to be directly involved, as much as that perhaps galls the American principle of standing up for freedom and defending the defenseless.